Okay, I'm going to get started this morning by welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see everyone here. Today is our group learning program where I come together each Sunday and Wednesday, helping students to be able to understand the path to enlightenment. We start with meditation, but then afterwards I share a talk to be able to help you guys to understand the teachings of the Buddha. What enlightenment is where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. By the time you get to enlightenment, you won't experience any discontent feelings. The mind will be completely peaceful. So today's topic after our meditation is the second part of a three-part series that I'm doing where I'm helping students to understand the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is a core central teaching that the Buddha taught that is going to guide you to this enlightened mental state. And the second section of the Eightfold Path is called the Moral Conduct section, where you're learning about right speech, right action, and right livelihood, helping you to understand the wise way to interact with others. Because as long as you're interacting with people in a bitter and harsh and hostile way and thinking that they're the ones who are actually causing that, you're going to keep experiencing difficulties and struggles in these relationships. So part of what the Buddha is teaching you is the guidance of how to make wise decisions about how you interact with others. So this is what I'm going to teach you guys after our meditation. So welcome to everyone here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. We're going to start with some chanting in order to ease into the meditation. And if you'd like to join along in the chanting, you're more than welcome to. We have chanting sheets over there on the cabinet that'll help you to be able to see the chanting that I'm doing. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students to commit the teachings to memory. Every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. So it was a learning tool, it was a learning device. So there's no rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer in the teachings of the Buddha. That's not what these chants are. If you've been exposed to that kind of thing, thinking that that's the teachings of the Buddha, that's not his actual teachings. He never taught any rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, or prayer. Today, we use chanting as a way to ease the mind in the meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. So if you choose to chant along, you'll see that it actually helps you to get more benefit out of your meditation. If you end up getting one of these chanting sheets, you'll see the English translations of what we're chanting. If you look at those, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha even created these chants himself, because he wouldn't have walked around and said, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me. Because a Buddha, by the time you've gotten to enlightenment, has eliminated any kind of ego or arrogance. You don't think of yourself as being above people or below people. Instead, you just think about everybody as being equal. So the Buddha wouldn't have walked around and had people chanting to him out of appreciation and gratitude and respect for him. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings to this peaceful and joyful mental state, and this teacher didn't want anything or expect anything from you, you might actually have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. Because the Buddha was teaching out of the kindness of his heart. He didn't have to teach anybody, but instead he chose to help people to understand how to get to this enlightened mental state. So if you choose to chant along, understand that that's what it is for, is to help you get more benefit out of the meditation. Once we're in the meditation, I'm going to be providing you some guidance, or I'm essentially going to be teaching you and instructing you how to meditate while we're actually meditating. Then there's going to be a period of time of quietness where we're all meditating together. Everyone here at the temple and anybody joining online will just be meditating. During this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. You might hear a car go by, a dog barking, a bird chirping, someone here might cough or sneeze. This is all normal. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence, expecting it to be permanently silent, well, when you hear a sound, you'll cause your mind to be annoyed or frustrated. This is the reason why you can eliminate these discontent feelings, is because it's actually being caused by the mind itself. Oftentimes, people think that it's the outside world that's causing them to be angry or frustrated or annoyed. But in reality, it's one's own mind that is actually causing this. It's the mind craving permanence while you live in an impermanent world. Things are constantly changing in the world. So you're not going to be able to be in a meditation where it's permanently quiet. You're occasionally going to hear sounds. And if you understand that that's normal, then you can be at ease. You can be peaceful because you understand the world's working exactly the way it's intended to work, where there's going to be sounds that arise, they're going to change, and then they're going to fade away. After that period of time of quietness, we'll come out of that with more chanting. And then that's where I'll start today's class, helping you guys to understand the moral conduct section of the Eightfold Path. In terms of your body position for meditation, the Buddha taught 4 positions to meditate in: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you would learn these different positions as different times as part of your journey to enlightenment, because you're not going to be able to be in the same position permanently. It's not possible. That's not the world that we live in. We live in an impermanent world. So you could be sitting on the floor, on a chair. Maybe if someone's at home, there might be on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. It's helpful to be able to learn meditation in the seated position, because this is like a primary position that a lot of people use. But there's these others as well that you can learn at different times. I'll give you some guidance on the seated position, but just understand what I share with you is to just provide recommendations or suggestions, because there's not just one fixed way to actually sit during meditation. There's many different options. So you could use something that I'm sharing with you, or perhaps you come up with something on your own and you might decide to use that instead. Whatever you find that's comfortable, that's what's important. The body needs to be comfortable, not painful and not luxurious, but instead comfortable. So if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, it can impede the circulation and cause pain in the lower body. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. The Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use it, but it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's other options here. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. The same thing's true for anybody who's in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed. So this is an option for you as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect. With the sternum up and the shoulders back, it'll help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. What meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities. So you like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because not only does it keep the mind attentive and alert, but it also makes it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So I'm going to get started with the chanting. Again, you guys are welcome to join in. I'll come back in with the guidance afterwards. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakeva Wat Tung Mahakavanang Apivateyami Savakato Mahakavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakava Arahang Samma Sambuddho วิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตูอนุเตโรปุริสาดามาสติสัตตาตวามนุสนังปุตโตภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here, you're just looking to establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath, not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then, whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหะเกวาพุทธังมหะเกวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหะเกวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหะเกวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะเกวาอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิจาจารณังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตวามนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, good morning to all of you guys. Welcome to everyone here. Welcome to everyone joining online as well. This is called breathing mindfulness meditation. This is an important part of an individual's practice that's going to train the mind to get to this enlightened mental state where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. The mind won't experience any discontent feelings by the time you get to enlightenment. You won't experience anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. You can eliminate all of that through training of the mind. You can get to a point where your mind's performing optimally. You'll notice you have focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. Because when the mind is in the unenlightened state, it usually lacks those qualities. You'll notice that your personal and professional relationships will really be blossoming. Because in the unenlightened state, you'll have a certain amount of bitterness, harshness, and hostility in the mind that comes out in your relationships. And all of that just comes back to you. It's damaging your relationships. And oftentimes people think that that bitterness and harshness is being caused by the other person, but it's actually being caused by what's going on in your own mind. You can actually uproot this and eliminate it out of the mind and get to a point where the mind's completely peaceful and all your relationships are harmonious. You can get to a point where you don't even experience a bad mood any longer, that it's physically impossible for you to experience that. So meditation is an important part of that, but it's not the only thing that you would need. Oftentimes people think that the Buddha sat under a tree, that he meditated and then instantly got to enlightenment. And this isn't actually true. It took him 6 years to train his mind to get to enlightenment. It's through gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that you train your mind to get to enlightenment. So meditation is an important part of your practice, and you wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment without it, but you also wouldn't be able to just meditate your way to enlightenment. There's other aspects of training that you need, and that is where we come to today's class. That in today's class, I'm going to be sharing with you guys the moral conduct section of the Eightfold Path. The Eightfold Path is the core central teaching of the Buddha, where everything that he taught in one way or another integrates into that. And last week, I taught the wisdom section. This makes up the foundation of the entire path, where you learn about right view and right intention. Today, I'm going to move into moral conduct section of right speech, right action, and right livelihood. And then next week, I'm going to be teaching the mental discipline section of right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration, helping students to be able to understand this teaching in depth. Because if you're going to get to enlightenment through the teachings of the Buddha, you would need to know this inside and out, backwards and forwards. You're going to need to revisit it multiple times. So just as a little refresh of what I taught last week, because some of you guys weren't here then, is in right view, what you're learning is the Four Noble Truths. In the Four Noble Truths, you learn in four simple statements what is the problem in the mind, the cause of that problem, the elimination of it, and the path forward. What the Buddha helps you to be able to see is that when your mind is shaken up with discontentedness, when your mind is experiencing conditioned feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others, that your mind is unable to make wise decisions. It's all shaken up. It's unsteady. It's uncalm. The mind's happy and excited, but then it's sad and frustrated. But then it's irritated and annoyed. And then you feel lonely and bored, but then you're happy again. And the mind's just going around like this. It's only a matter of time before you experience some discontent feelings. And then in the second noble truth, he explains to you that, and you can independently verify, that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. It's the mind's craving, desire, attachment. It's the mind longing, yearning. It's craving permanence while you live in an impermanent world. So the mind in the unenlightened state with its craving for permanence, if you get what you want and what you expect, you'll experience pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, and others. But if you don't get what you want, you'll experience painful feelings like anger, sadness, frustration, and others. So if you got a brand new car and you drove this car to the store and you parked it and you went inside and you came out and you saw a scratch on your car and you got angry or frustrated there, it's not the scratch that's causing that. And it's not the person who scratched your car. It's the mind craving permanence. The mind is craving this car to look permanently beautiful when it's impossible for this car to be permanently beautiful. The paint's going to fade. The tires are going to need to be changed. The upholstery is going to get ripped and torn. It's only a matter of time before this car starts changing. Now, we're not talking about what's wise or unwise, because obviously when we walk through the parking lot, we aspire not to scratch anybody's car. But the fact is that this car is going to get a scratch. It's only a matter of time. And if your mind craves permanence, when you experience that impermanence, the mind doesn't like it. It doesn't like change. That's what the mind's doing in the unenlightened state, is with that craving for permanence. It doesn't like when things are changing. This is why if you look at your life, when you were having the most difficulties and struggles in your life, it's when things were changing. When you were changing living locations, when you were changing jobs or occupations, when you were changing relationships, this is where you struggled the most, because the mind is holding on and craving permanence. But yet the mind lives in an impermanent world. Everything around you is constantly changing. So as long as you're craving permanence while you're living in an impermanent world, it's only a matter of time before you become angry or frustrated about something. So there's a solution for this. You can actually eliminate the longing, yearning, the chasing after the objects of your affection, thinking the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. You can learn how to go inward and uproot these causes and conditions, doing this inner work and purifying the mind to get to a point where it's completely peaceful and joyful. And it's the Eightfold Path that's going to do that for you. That's what the Buddha explains in these Four Noble Truths. Then we talked about right intention. And I explained 3 different ways of setting an intention or thinking or thoughts that the Buddha teaches you to cultivate. The intention of renunciation, non-ill will, and harmlessness. What renunciation is, where you have a willingness to let go of your false beliefs, your false ideas, your false views, your false opinions, and also the unwholesomeness. Because in the unenlightened state, there's a certain amount of unwholesome mental states, there's a certain amount of unwholesome moral conduct. And if you're unwilling to let that go, then the mind is going to continue to stay in this unenlightened state. And if you're unwilling to let go of your false ideas, your false beliefs, your false opinions and views, then you're never going to be able to bring in new wisdom to be able to see that what you're thinking is untrue. Because if you currently experience anger, sadness, frustration, and all these other discontent feelings, there's a certain lack of wisdom that the mind has. And because it hasn't cultivated the needed wisdom, it will continue to struggle and have difficulties in day-to-day life. You'll continue to experience anger and sadness and frustration. So you need to be willing to let go of these false ideas, false beliefs, false opinions and views. But the way that the Buddha's teachings work is you're not bringing in new beliefs in order to let go of your old beliefs. Instead, you're bringing in wisdom. What you need to be able to do is learn, examine, and investigate his teachings. Then you need to reflect on them to verify if they're true or they're false. Then you need to practice his teachings in order to be able to train your mind and make decisions through those teachings. And this is where you discover the wisdom. And when you see that wisdom is conflicting with things that you've believed your entire life, you need to be willing to eliminate those beliefs. So one of the first beliefs that you need to eliminate, this false belief that the mind has, is the belief that other people are causing you to be angry or sad or frustrated or irritated, because this is untrue. But as long as you cling to that idea that it's other people that are causing you to be angry and frustrated, what you'll tend to do is you will push people away out of your life. This is called aversion, where you might have pushed away friends or family, thinking that they are actually the cause of your anger and frustration. But you can see that that didn't actually solve your problem. Because if that person was the true cause of your anger and frustration, when you push them out of your life, you'd be peaceful and joyful from that point forward. Or the second thing you'll do when you don't understand that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings is you'll tend to be bitter and harsh and hostile to people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal, trying to fear it into doing things your way. Or the third thing that an individual will do when they don't understand that it's their own mind causing these feelings is they'll tend to put expectations on people and pressure them and try to control them to do things a certain way. And this just creates broken relationships and difficulties, disharmony in your relationships. So there's a better way of life here that the Buddha taught, but you need to be willing to bring in this new wisdom and eliminate these false ideas, false beliefs, false opinions and views, because the way that an individual is currently doing things in the unenlightened state isn't actually working. That's why it hasn't led to the peace and joy. The mind is struggling and having difficulties when it's experiencing that anger, sadness, stress, anxiety, and all these other feelings. But you can uproot that and eliminate it. The other part of right intention is to practice the intention of goodwill or loving kindness, this genuine interest in seeing all beings be well, and to also practice the intention or thinking or thought of harmlessness, where you're disinterested or incapable of causing harm to others. Because as long as you cause harm to others, harm is going to come back to you. You need to be able to eliminate that from the mind. So this forms the wisdom section, and you need to really penetrate into that deeply so you can see the truth for yourself. If right now you're thinking that other people are causing you to be angry and frustrated, you haven't yet established right view. You need to establish right view that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, because as long as you think it's other people that are causing these feelings, you'll never be able to get to peace and joy, because you'll continue to push people away, be bitter, harsh, and hostile to them, or put expectations on them. So by penetrating into this and seeing the truth and independently verifying it, you can get to a point where you're starting to awaken. What awakening means is to cultivate wisdom, that you're cultivating wisdom about the world around you. The Buddha is helping you to be able to awaken to these natural laws of existence. The natural laws of existence is how the world truly functions. And the main natural law that the Buddha is helping you to be able to understand is called the natural law of karma. Some of you guys might have heard this referred to as karma. This is the Sanskrit version of this word, but in the original teachings of the Buddha, he uses the Pali language, so we use the word karma. If this translated to just one English word, I would use it because it would be easier for everyone to understand, but since it doesn't translate to just one English word, I still need to use this word karma. What it means is cause and effect, or action and result. It's the results of your decisions. It's nothing mystical or magical. It's not about who's to blame or who's at fault. It's none of that. It's not anything like that. There's no being who's overseeing this to control who experiences what. It's literally the results of your decisions. It's not about punishments and rewards. It's about understanding that there's certain decisions that you make in the world, and when you make those decisions, either wisely or unwisely, you're going to experience either wholesome karma, meaning wholesome results, or you're going to experience unwholesome karma or unwholesome results. So when you awaken, cultivating wisdom of this natural law, you'll tend to make wiser and wiser decisions. This natural law is actually very empowering, because when you come to understand that what you're experiencing in your day-to-day life is a result of your decisions, if there's anything that you particularly don't care for, that you would rather not occur in your life, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. But when you continue to make the same unwise decisions over and over and over again, you'll keep experiencing the same unwholesome results. It's kind of like if I was walking down the beach and wind was blowing in my face and I was kicking up the sand and the sand was blowing back in my face, and I'm like, this is good luck or bad luck, or this is my destiny or my fate, or this is God or some entity called the universe that is causing me to experience this, or this is because of other people that I'm experiencing this. Well, I'll just continue to walk down the beach kicking up sand, experiencing the sand blowing back in my face. But if I understand that it's my own decisions that are leading to the results that I experience, then all I need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and I'll experience different results. I'll stop kicking up sand. And this is very empowering, because now you can walk down the beach with a fresh breeze blowing in your face instead of sand. So the Buddha is helping you all throughout his teachings to understand this natural law of cause and effect. And once you understand through this eightfold path, understanding right view, that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, you come to understand that the last thing you're interested in is being bitter and harsh and hostile to others. As long as your mind's doing that, you're just going to be causing harm in your relationships, and it's all just going to be coming back to you. That it's not other people that are causing you to function in that way. It's your own mind that's doing that. And now you can purify your mind, you can train your mind, and you can get to a point where you're being loving and kind and warm and gentle with the people around you. And more as you're doing that, that's what you'll see coming back to you. So today's class is to help you understand right speech, right action, and right livelihood. One of the ways we might think about this is wise speech, wise action, and wise livelihood, because the Buddha is providing you the wisdom of this natural law of karma so that you can see the wise decisions that are leading to wholesome results in your life, or wholesome karma. He's teaching you how to eliminate craving, where the mind is longing, yearning, and wanting and expecting things to be a certain way. So I'm going to use the words of the Buddha here to be able to help you understand each one of these factors, because as you integrate this into your day-to-day life and you start functioning through these teachings, you're going to see that your relationships become more harmonious. Because as long as you're practicing wrong speech, wrong action, or wrong livelihood, you're causing harm through the way that you're interacting in the world, and this is all coming back to you. So I'm going to be stopping at the end of each one of these factors and see what questions you guys have. And as you guys have questions, you're more than welcome to ask those. We have microphones in the middle of the room in the white bowl. You can get a microphone there. We also have some up here in the front. If you would like to ask a question, just get a microphone. You press the gray button. You'll see the lights come on, and you just hold this up to your chin, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. And if you would like to keep these with you, you're more than welcome to, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question. And if you're not using the microphone, if you could turn it off, that'll be helpful so we don't get feedback through the speakers. And anybody who's online, you can ask questions by putting that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any and all questions that you like. So I'm going to share with you guys these teachings on right speech, right action, and right livelihood. But keep in mind that this isn't rules. It's not commandments. That's not the way the Buddha taught. Remember, he already got to peace. He already got to joy. He's just helping you to be able to understand what it takes in order to be able to get to that same peace and that same joy. He's not telling you or trying to force you or convince you to do anything. He's just helping you to be able to see this natural law. And then you're invited to be able to learn that natural law and then independently verify it through your own reflection, your own direct experience. And I'll show you guys how to do that. So here's the words of the Buddha on right speech. He says, "In what, monks, is right speech? Refraining from lying, refraining from slander, refraining from harsh speech, refraining from frivolous speech. This is called right speech. Here, the Buddha is giving you 4 things that it would be unwise to actually do, which is lying, slander, harsh speech, and frivolous speech. That's because each of these are based in craving, the mind longing, yearning, wanting and expecting something, the mind's selfish desires. And whenever you're making decisions through that, it's going to produce unwholesome results for you. So for example, this first one, lying. If you remember back to maybe when we were children and we were lying, there was something we wanted. There was something that we expected and we wanted. And if we told the truth, we wouldn't have gotten it. So we actually lied in order to be able to try to get what we wanted. But then people discovered those lies. And then people were maybe angry or frustrated, or people didn't trust us. People looked at us as being unreliable and undependable. And now our relationships really struggled. So as long as you're lying, there's still craving, desire, attachment in the mind. There's a longing, yearning. There's something selfish that the mind is wanting. And now it's trying to be deceptive towards others in order to be able to get what it wants. And now when people discover those lies, they're going to see you as being undependable and unreliable. So this is going to hurt you in things like your career, because as your boss and your coworker finds out that maybe you're lying, this is going to cause difficulties in those relationships. You're not going to be able to advance in your career as much. And also, if you can remember when we were children and maybe we did a lot of lying, it was very difficult to be able to keep our lies straight. We had to figure out, what did we tell mom? What did we tell dad? What did we tell grandma and grandpa? We had to keep all this straight in our head. And it was very challenging. We're almost obsessively trying to figure out what we said to one person versus another versus another. Well, how can you get to peace and joy if your mind's constantly having to figure all that stuff out? But if you speak the truth, your mind can be at ease because you just always know that you're speaking the truth and you don't have to worry about what you said to one person versus another. So this is going to promote more wholesome relationships for you, more harmonious relationships, and your mind can be at ease when you just speak the truth. Slandering, this is to gossip or slander. This is to degrade or diminish somebody else's reputation. If the mind's doing this, there's some kind of craving that it has, potentially have a craving to look good in front of others, where the mind thinks if I can make other people look bad, it'll make me look good. So the mind will tend to slander and gossip others. It's almost like walking into a dark room and everybody has a candle, and the mind thinks, if I put out everybody else's candle, my candle will shine brighter. But it's kind of like, no, we're in a dark room. We need everybody's candle to be shining bright, right? But that's not the way that the unenlightened mind thinks. It thinks very selfishly that it wants my candle to shine bright. So if you're degrading and diminishing others and damaging their reputation through slander and gossip, at the height of this, the natural law of karma is you can actually be killed. There's been people that have been murdered and killed over this. The Buddha's teachings aren't explaining to you the way that the world should be. He's explaining to you the way the world is. Because then when you understand the way the world is, you can navigate it more peacefully. If you look at people like investigative reporters who go on the news and maybe they are gossiping and slandering on the news and talking really badly about somebody, some of those people end up dead. So that's at the height of this. You can actually end up murdered or dead if you're slandering and gossiping people. But at the very least, if you're going around gossiping and slandering people, if you get a certain group of people used to gossiping and slandering, and then you walk away and your back is turned, what do you think those people are doing when you're over here? They're gossiping and slandering about you, right? Because you got these people used to gossiping and slandering. So if you're not interested in people gossiping and slandering about you, you're going to need to eliminate that in your own practice. So the Buddha is teaching you this because it's a wise decision to not gossip and slander. Again, it's not rules or commandments. It's helping you to see this natural law so that you can create a wonderful life for yourself. Then there's harsh speech. When an individual is speaking harshly, there's a certain craving in the mind. There's something that you want, something you expect. And the mind thinks, if I speak harsh and bitter to this person, it'll fear them into doing things my way. That's what the mind's doing, is trying to get things my way. It's almost like the unenlightened mind lives in this little bubble and it wants everybody to do things your way. This is the permanence that the mind's craving. And if someone doesn't do things your way, that's where the mind can become bitter and harsh and hostile towards others. So what you would like to do is pay attention to your tone, your tempo, and your word choice, learning how to speak gentle with the people around you. And what this is going to do is it's going to help train your mind to eliminate its cravings, the desire, the longing, the yearning, the chasing after the objects of your affection. Now you can see your relationships really improve. So you're going to need to pay attention to your tone, your tempo, and your word choice, and the way that you speak. And some of you probably speak more than one language. So you're going to need to look at each of these different languages that you speak and look for the words that are going to help you to communicate being loving and kind and warm and gentle with the people around you. And this is what's going to produce wholesome karma, or wholesome results for you. Then there's something called frivolous speech. I don't know if you guys have ever done this or if you've ever been around someone who speaks in this way, but this is speaking without purpose, without beneficial results, where the mind has a craving to speak, where it's kind of like you're talking with someone and they're just going yada 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 yada. As you're there for like 20 minutes and they haven't even stopped talking, it's like, oh my gosh, this isn't even a conversation. This person's broadcasting to me. That's what they're doing. There's not really even a discussion. So if you're that type of individual where you have a craving to just speak and speak and speak and speak and speak, eventually people are going to tune you out. They're just going to push you aside because they're going to be disinterested in talking with you. So you're not interested in being that person. You would like to be purposeful and beneficial when you speak. You like to be clear and concise. This is more about the method of the way that you speak, that you're not interested in having an underlying craving to just ramble, 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 ramble. So this is the words of the Buddha on right speech. And this is what you would like to develop as part of your practice. And bringing your practice up to this is going to significantly improve what you experience on a day-to-day basis based on your karma and experiencing wholesome and harmonious relationships. But then at a deeper level, the Buddha has other teachings that plug into the Eightfold Path that you would like to also learn and then practice closely. Related to speech, there's something called the 5 factors of well-spoken speech. And if you learn these closely and you practice these are going to help you even further than the ones that he taught as part of the Eightfold Path. It's speaking at the proper time, what you say is true, gentle, beneficial, and with a mind of loving kindness. Speaking at the proper time is to make sure that you're not interrupting people. Because when you're interrupting people, then there's a certain craving there. The mind's longing, yearning. The mind's trying to jump in there and talk, and the mind's not even willing to wait its turn. So you would like to not do that because you know when people interrupt you, you don't like it. So if you do this to other people, they're not going to like it either. So you like to restrain the mind and make sure it's the proper time to talk. Other parts of speaking the proper time is to make sure your mind is prepared to talk. If you're angry, if you're frustrated or agitated, and you try to have a conversation with someone, that's what's going to come out. And now it's going to damage your relationships. You can see this through your own direct experience. In situations where you've been bitter and harsh and hostile, it wasn't the proper time to talk, and there was just a bunch of anger and hostility coming out, and it damaged your relationships. So you'd like to eliminate that, where you wait until the proper time. And that might mean that you need to walk away from a conversation, wait a few hours, wait a few days before you come back and actually have the conversation when your mind can actually be calm. And the other part of speaking at the proper time is to make sure it's the proper time for the other person. Because if they're angry, if they're frustrated or agitated, it's not the proper time to talk. And now you're not going to be able to experience a beneficial result in your conversation. It's not going to produce wholesome karma. It's going to produce unwholesome karma if you actually talk with someone when it's not the proper time. So this is important to be able to keep in mind as you're practicing speech. Then speaking the truth, we talked about that up here, is that you're not lying. This is ensuring that you're not having a deliberate lie, but also that you're not spreading conspiracy theories and unfounded truths, things that you haven't confirmed for yourself. You would like to confirm things for yourself so you know that each time you speak, you're speaking the truth. The Buddha talks here about speaking gently. That's up here as well. Ensuring that you're not speaking harshly, paying attention to your tone, tempo, and word choice. And then speaking beneficially is up here as well, that you're speaking clear, concise, and precise. You're speaking purposeful when you're speaking, that the person you're speaking with, you're not just rambling with rambling chit-chat where there's just a craving to talk. And then you would like to wrap all of this in a mind of loving kindness. Loving kindness is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. The opposite of this is speaking with a mind of inner hate. If you speak with a mind of inner hate, it's going to produce unwholesome results for you. So this is the 5 factors of well-spoken speech, and you'll see if you can bring your practice up to this and you can speak this way for an extended period of time, you'll see that your relationships will really improve. What we're talking about here, there's a word in the Thai language that represents what it is. There's this word in the Thai language called barami. What this word means is it means the one who people listen to. Barami. In Thai villages, there's typically elders in the village that people know that these people are really successful in life. And if you'd like to get some help, you can go to them and they will actually help you. When I say that they're successful in life, I don't necessarily mean financially successful, because anybody can go out and make a bunch of money. Instead, when I say that they're successful, I mean they have harmonious relationships with the people around them, because that takes a lot of wisdom to be able to have harmonious relationships. And it means that you're speaking with the 5 factors of well-spoken speech. So if you're interested in being influential and helpful in the communities that you're in, whether it's personal or professional, you're going to need barami. You're going to need to be the one who people listen to. And the way that you establish that is through practicing right speech. If you practice this teaching that the Buddha is sharing with you, you'll see over time that your mind will experience more and more improvement, where your mind will be more peaceful, more joyful, and your relationships will really improve and it'll really blossom. So while during the lifetime of the Buddha, this was referred to as right speech, we might actually think about this as right communication, because we actually have a lot more ways to interact with people than just speech. We have emails, we have text messages, we have social media, we have all kinds of different ways of interacting with people. Because if you went into a job interview and you were speaking and you knocked it out of the park and you were doing a phenomenal job, and these people are like, wow, I'm going to hire this person. We're going to give them a really big salary. They're awesome, right? But if they looked at your social media and they saw you were bitter and harsh and hostile in your social media, you're probably not going to get the job. So you would like to be able to use right communication in all situations. These teachings apply. So for example, if you went over to your computer and you were pounding on the keyboard because you're so angry and frustrated and you got to send out that email, well, it's not the proper time to communicate. You might decide to hit save on that email rather than send. Because once you hit send, it's going out into the world, and now it's going to produce harm, and harm's going to come back to you. So hit save and then come back a few hours, a few days later, and look at that email and decide if you really would like to send it. So when you're looking at teachings like this from the Buddha, it's important not to believe these teachings. Don't look at it as rules and commandments. Understand that he's teaching you the natural laws. And these natural laws affect you whether you're aware of them or not. So take a look at these 5 factors of well-spoken speech. This is how you independently verify his teachings. Take a recent situation where a conversation maybe didn't go so well for you. Maybe it ended in a way that you would have preferred it didn't end. And look at these 5 factors of well-spoken speech and see, were you speaking at the proper time? Were you speaking the truth? Were you speaking gently? Were you speaking beneficially? And were you speaking with a mind of loving kindness? Because if you missed one of these natural laws here, if you missed one of these, then the conversation isn't going to go well. So you can see through that this is the actual truth. But then you can look at the other side of this too, because you've had plenty of conversations that have gone well. You've had conversations that have done really well. They've produced wholesome results for you. And if you look at these natural laws, if you look at this teaching, you can see that you and the other person was practicing this. You were speaking at the proper time. You were speaking the truth. Gentle, beneficial, and with a mind of loving kindness. And that's the reason why the conversation went well. So these natural laws affect you whether you're aware of them or not. And you've been practicing this in certain situations. But now what you would like to be able to do is bring this up to your conscious mind and be practicing it each day in each moment. And that's where the mental discipline section of the Eightfold Path is going to help you, because you're going to find it challenging to practice this. The idea of going out into the world today, snapping your fingers and instantly practicing this perfectly, is not going to happen. I can tell you that right now. That's why you need the mental discipline section to be able to train your mind to be able to then practice something like this. You'll find it the most difficult with people who you're closest to. People like your mom and dad, brothers and sisters, your life partner, your children, people like this, because those are the relationships where you have craving, desire, attachment. Your mind's holding on and having certain wants and expectations. So you're going to need to gradually bring your practice up to this and then practice this for an extended period of time. And while you're in the process of learning this and practicing it more closely, if you're in a situation where you're kind of stuck and you can't remember what the 5 factors of well-spoken speech are, what I suggest you do is keep this in mind. Speak polite, kind, friendly, and respectful. If you can keep that in mind, that'll help you lean in the direction of the 5 factors of well-spoken speech. Ultimately, you're going to need to know the 5 factors of well-spoken speech and practice that closely, but it can take you a while to be able to bring that up in your mind. One of the things that I used to do is I used to review these in the morning, the 5 factors. I would bring them up to the front of my mind. I would go out into my day in the morning. I would be practicing, having different conversations, different meetings. And then at lunchtime, I would look at the 5 factors of well-spoken speech again. And I would look at what I did in the morning. And I was like, oh man, I was interrupting that guy. I really need to get better at that, right? Or over here, I was speaking really gently. That's wonderful. I would like to keep doing that. So you'd like to look at the places where you're making wise decisions and continue to do that. And you would like to look at places where you're making unwise decisions and eliminate that and bringing this up into your mind more and more. So do you guys have questions on the right speech or the 5 factors of well-spoken speech? Anything you guys would like to ask here? Remember, you have the microphones. And for those of you guys online, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. No questions? Okay, let me see here. I don't see any online either. Okay, so I'm going to move into the next part of this, which is right action. Here's the words of the Buddha. He says, in what, monks, is right action? Refraining from taking life, refraining from taking what is not given, refraining from sexual misconduct. This is called right action. So the Buddha is giving you 3 really impactful bodily actions that you could actually cause harm through. He's not giving you much detail here in the Eightfold Path because he expands this for you in a teaching called the 5 Precepts. I'm going to be teaching that in this program when we get to chapter 7. And I've taught it many times before in other programs and other courses and retreats. So it's been recorded. It's on our YouTube channel. It's on our podcast. It's in our books and audiobooks and all these different things. You're going to need to learn those teachings in order to be able to really understand what he's talking about here in detail, because these are very broad and very general. Notice he's not giving you an exhaustive list. He doesn't say, it would be unwise to walk up to someone and punch them in the face, right? The reason why is because this is right action. This is all about the bodily actions, and you need to be able to have the wisdom to move to this higher consciousness and see these actions for yourself, because he can't give you an exhaustive list of every single thing that would lead to unwholesome results in terms of your bodily actions. Notice he doesn't say that it would be unwise to take your suitcase and roll it through the aisle of a plane and run over people's feet and bump into their knees. Well, the reason why is because planes didn't even exist during his lifetime. So how could he ever have come up with an exhaustive list of every single action that could have potentially been done in order to cause harm? So you're going to need to look at how you interact with your body and make sure that you're not causing harm through your bodily actions. Because anytime you cause harm, harm is going to come back to you. So there's more detail here that you're going to learn as part of his teachings if you dive into them in more detail, because the 5 precepts really expand for you what it is that he's actually talking about. If you've heard about the 5 precepts and you've heard that the Buddha taught no killing, no stealing, no sexual misconduct, no lying, and no intoxicants, that's actually not from the Buddha. He never taught those things. That sounds like black and white. It sounds like rules and commandments. He gives much more illuminating language than that, because that's what you need in order to be able to apply this in your day-to-day life. So right here, for example, where he says, excuse me, I'm about to sneeze. There, it's gone now. All right. So we're right here where he says refraining from sexual misconduct. If you look in the 5 precepts, he talks about things like having sex with minors, or having sex against somebody's consent, or having sex outside of relationships that you're currently committed to, and things of this nature, because this is what's going to actually cause harm. He doesn't talk about same-gender relationships, because 2 loyal, loving, consenting adults choosing to have a sexual relationship, they're not actually causing harm to each other. So oftentimes when people see this, they kind of assume certain things. But the Buddha understood 2,500 years ago that Same-gender relationships aren't causing any harm because two loyal, loving, consenting adults choosing to have sex, there's no harm there. There's been same-gender relationships ever since the beginning of humanity. That there's never been a time where everybody had sex with the opposite gender. If we all had sex with the opposite gender, that would be permanence. And we don't live in that world. We live in an impermanent world where some people are going to be interested in having sex with the opposite gender and some people are going to have sex with the same gender. That's normal. But oftentimes what people have is they have a craving for everybody to have sex with the opposite gender. And now they get angry and frustrated if they saw a same gender relationship. But you can understand the truth and you can be peaceful in understanding that two loyal, loving, consenting adults choosing to have a relationship together, they're not actually causing any harm. So if you're someone who has same gender relationships or you know someone who does, you're not causing any harm. They're not causing any harm and you can be at peace understanding that. But if somebody else gets angry because of that same gender relationship, they're causing their own anger. It's not the person who's having the same gender relationship. Okay, so we're going to explore this in more detail when we get to the 5 precepts when we talk about chapter 7 in this program. And we're going to expand this a lot more and we're going to apply it to day-to-day situations. But just understand that you would like to get to a point where you're not causing harm through your bodily actions. Do you guys have any questions on this particular step? Questions? Okay. I don't see any questions online either. Okay, so now we've got one more to talk about, which is right livelihood. First, what a livelihood is how you choose to sustain your life. If you're choosing to sustain your life off of causing harm to others, harm is going to come back to you. So the Buddha is teaching you about this. So he says, in what, monks, is right livelihood? Here, monks, the noble disciple, having given up wrong livelihood, keeps himself by right livelihood. Okay, so here he's just saying something very general and very broad because his teachings on right livelihood are actually quite comprehensive. What he's helping you to be able to do is get to a point where you're not causing harm through the way that you sustain your life, but also so you can get to a livelihood that you thoroughly enjoy and that you're very successful at. Right now, if you're dragging yourself to work and you despise being at work and you really don't like your work, that's not the way life has to be. You can actually make different decisions and you'll experience different results. So you need the wisdom of how to do that. And that's what the Buddha is going to help you to do. Because remember, if you cultivate wisdom and you make different decisions, you can experience different results. So getting to a livelihood that you thoroughly enjoy would be really wonderful for you. Because how could you ever get to peace and joy in this enlightened mental state if you're dragging yourself to work every day? So the Buddha is giving you guidance on this, and I'll share with you what's called the first fold of purification. So here the Buddha is giving you 5 livelihoods that would actually cause harm in the world. And if you cause harm through your livelihood and the way you sustain your life, this harm is going to come back to you. So he talks about business and weapons, living beings, meat, substances that cause heedlessness, and poisons. So these are 5 livelihoods where you're sustaining your life off of causing harm to others. But remember, these teachings aren't rules. They're not commandments. It's helping you to be able to see the natural law. So you're never interested in believing any of these teachings. You need to be able to independently verify this. So I'll show you how to do this with just one of these, and then you can do it with the rest. So substances that cause heedlessness. Right? So this is like if I was standing on the street corner selling crystal methamphetamine, heroin, or cocaine. If I'm doing that, I'm selling substances that cause heedlessness. And now I'm causing harm to the community because these people are getting addicted to these substances. And now they're going out and stealing and robbing and selling their body in order to bring me money. And now standing on the street corner, causing harm to this community, I'm very likely to get beat up, to get murdered, to get robbed. I can get arrested. I can get addicted to these substances myself. These are the results of my decisions. These aren't just random events that are happening. This is because of the cause and effect relationship of the natural law of karma. Again, it's not punishments and rewards. It's not about who's to blame or who's at fault. It's nothing mystical or magical. There's no being who's overseeing this and controlling what is experienced. It's my decisions that are leading to this particular result. So that's why the Buddha teaches you that it would be unwise to do this. But it's not illegal in every single place to be able to do things like stand on the street corner and sell crystal methamphetamine and heroin. There are certain places where it's legal to do that. So you could actually sell substances that cause heedlessness in certain environments, and the government's not going to do anything. But the natural law of karma is there helping you to be able to see that it's unwise to do that, and you're experiencing these harms. So, for example, I grew up in a place where it wouldn't be illegal for me to be a cashier at a liquor store. The government's not going to do anything about that. I can go work at a liquor store and be a cashier. But if you understand the natural law of karma, it's functioning at a much higher level than any laws of society. The governmental laws are created by human beings. They're enforced by human beings. They're administered by human beings. And that's why they're largely, in some cases, are administered in ways that aren't necessarily fair or equitable to all people, because human beings are prone to error. So the laws of society are never going to be perfect, but the natural law of karma is functioning at a much higher level. If I choose to go be a cashier at a liquor store, I'm very likely to get robbed, to get beat up. I could get murdered. At the very least, I'm going to be dealing with intoxicated people that are coming in from time to time to be able to purchase their alcohol. And now, how can you get to peace and joy for having to deal with intoxicated people on a regular basis at your livelihood? So you can take each one of these and you can apply it in day-to-day life, and you can see that it's actually wise to eliminate these. This is your own direct experience, that you can see that if you have business in any of these, it produces unwholesome karma or unwholesome results. But then the Buddha goes further. He helps you to be able to see how to perform your livelihood in a way that's going to produce wholesome results for you. Because it's important that you get to a livelihood that you thoroughly enjoy and that you're being very successful at. So here he talks about eliminating scheming, flattery, hinting, belittling, and pursuing gain with gain. If you're scheming, this is like corruption. And if you're doing that, people are going to find out, and it's going to cause difficulties in your livelihood. So for example, if I was the mayor of a town, I'm not causing any harm by being the mayor of a town, because I'm not having business in weapons, living beings, meat, substances that cause heedlessness or poisons. But if in the background, I'm actually doing backhanded deals and I'm corrupt and I'm scheming, people are going to find out. Maybe 10 years, 15 years into my career, people find out. And now, next thing you know, people won't reelect me. And I'm having difficulties to be able to survive and actually sustain my life. So the Buddha teaches you that it would be unwise to do that. There's flattery, where this is like insincere comments, where somebody's just trying to convince you to buy something through insincerity. So if you've ever been into a store and you walked in and they were like, oh my gosh, that shirt brings out the colors of your eyes. It really enhances the shape of your face. Oh, you're so beautiful. If you would like to come over here, I've got these earrings that'll go really good with your shirt. Right? Maybe you've been in a store like that. And if you've been in those kind of places, you're probably like, ugh, I don't even want to go in there. I don't even want to shop at this place. Because when people are doing business, they do business with people. They don't do business with businesses. They do business with people. And if the people that are there are just doing flattery, you're just disinterested in actually patronizing this business. So if you're going to be successful in your career, you'd like to get to a point where you're not just selling things based in flattery. Then the Buddha teaches that you would eliminate hinting. This is where you're not being clear and concise in the work that you're doing. Like say, for example, all of us are on a project team and we need to go brief the boss about the work that we're doing. We'd like to be clear and concise and precise. We're not interested in hinting around. And if we're clear and concise, we'll be more successful in our livelihood. So that's why the Buddha teaches you that. He teaches you to eliminate belittling. This is where you're degrading or diminishing people in your livelihood. This is like if you were to talk badly about your customers, your coworkers, your business partner, or maybe your competition. Sometimes people think the way to get ahead in business is to degrade their competition and make their competition look bad because they think it makes them look good. But in reality, it's actually harming you. So the Buddha teaches you not to do that. And one of the things that you can do, if somebody asks you about your competition, you can say, well, I'm not really sure what they do 100%, but this is what I can do for you. Here's how I can help you. And now you can focus on that. And that ensures that you're not going to be belittling other people or degrading or diminishing them. And then lastly, the Buddha teaches you to eliminate pursuing gain with gain. What this is where you're just taking a job for the paycheck or for the money. You really don't care about the product or the service. All you really want is that money, right? And when you first get this kind of job, if you've ever had that kind of job, you probably were very excited and very enthused when you first got it because you're getting this big fat paycheck. But then after a few months, you kind of ended up dragging yourself to work each day because you really didn't like the work that you were doing, right? You just kind of dragged yourself to work, right? So if you're just after the money, you're not going to have enthusiasm and ambition in the work that you're doing. And that's what the Buddha's guiding you to be able to get to. So you would like to eliminate any of this pursuing gain with gain. You like to get to a point where you thoroughly enjoy the work that you're doing. You might actually find people like that here in Thailand. There's plenty of people who thoroughly enjoy the work that they're doing. In fact, you might find somebody today out there in the market standing there that is selling mango and sticky rice. They might have actually woken up this morning, went into their mango grove, picked each one of their mangoes, brushed off the dust, put it in their basket. They brought their mangoes to the market, and they're standing there slicing their mangoes with a big smile on their face. They put those mangoes over top of that warm, sticky rice, and then they pour that coconut milk over top of the mango and sticky rice, and they hand it to you with a big old smile on their face. Right? And of course, they collect their little 40 baht and they stick it in their pocket because they need that in order to be able to survive. But they can't imagine doing anything else other than serving you that mango and sticky rice because they just thoroughly enjoy it so much. So what you need to do is you need to find your mango and sticky rice. What's your mango and sticky rice? What is it that you're going to be so enthused to be able to do that you can't imagine doing anything else other than that particular thing? Because that's what you're going to bring to the world and that's what you're going to share with the world. And of course, you're going to be making some money, but that's almost secondary. That, of course, you need to make money in order to survive, but you'd like to be able to do it in a way that you thoroughly enjoy, that it doesn't even feel like work anymore, that if you had to, you would even do this thing for free because you enjoy it so much. But of course, you're going to need to collect some money. Okay, so this is Right Livelihood. Any questions here that you guys have on Right Livelihood? Yeah, Lyndon. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can you go to the previous slides of the Right Livelihood?
Sure.
Yes. So here we talk about business in substance. Oops. Okay. Cause heedlessness. Like in the past or like we are talking about like for example weeds or alcohols or those things, but in nowadays there's more like a mental thing, like a mental like killers or addiction is coming to, for example, the cell phones, right? The YouTube or TikTok or stuff. How do you see like the involve the business in those areas?
Okay.
Were they also around livelihood or yeah?
Those aren't substances that cause heedlessness. Substances that cause heedlessness is a substance that you're putting into the body that produces and promotes a lack of attentiveness, unmindfulness, unawareness. So Facebook, TikTok, all these different things, Instagram, it doesn't produce heedlessness. If somebody has a craving, desire, attachment, and they're grabbing onto it and they're choosing to look at it excessively, then their mind can be heedless, but it's not the product of Facebook or Instagram or TikTok that's doing that. It's the mind's craving, desire, attachment. In this case, it's the actual substance that you're putting into the body. It's the cocaine, it's the heroin that's actually doing that. So in this case, it's the craving, desire, attachment that's doing it, not the product itself. Mm-hmm. Because you can actually use Facebook and Instagram and these other things without craving, desire, attachment. It's possible to do that and train your mind to accomplish that. But you can't use heroin and not have a craving, or cocaine or alcohol. There's a craving there.
Got it. So here it's more like a physically or not like anything mentally thing,
Right.
like a
It's
product.
it's a substance like LSD, PCP, even caffeine produces heedlessness. If you're putting that into the body, it's going to produce heedlessness. So if you're involved in selling these things in order to promote heedlessness in other people, it's going to ultimately cause harm in your life because that harm's going to come back to you.
Got it. And then how about like the website, like the porn website? Would that be it's not.
Yeah, so this is business and living beings, right? If you're, promoting that, if you're, paying living beings to be able to have sex in order to be able to have these videos on your website and host that, you're having business and living beings.
Got it.
That's the ultimate product, is this living being. So this is all included in there.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. All right. I don't see any other questions anywhere. So what I'm going to do is just summarize this here for you guys so you can understand what it is that we talked about today. As we talked about right speech. Right speech is making sure you're not causing any harm through all your verbal conduct, because whenever you cause harm, harm's going to come back to you. But remember, you would like to pay attention to other things besides just your speech, because we have lots of ways of communicating nowadays that if you caused harm in any of those ways, it's actually going to come back to you. So you like to pay attention to not only your verbal, but your text, chat, post, emails. All of this should be harmless, eliminating lying, slander, harsh speech, frivolous speech, and then practicing the 5 factors of well-spoken speech, where you're speaking at the proper time, what you speak is true, gentle, beneficial, and with a mind of loving kindness. And this will help you to establish Barami, the one who people listen to. Then you would like to eliminate any harm through your bodily actions, because whenever you're causing harm through your bodily actions, this harm is going to come back to you. So you'd like to be sure you're not dragging your suitcase through the aisle of a plane and running over people's feet and bumping into their knees. And of course, you're not going to punch someone in the face, right? Because they could probably punch you back or pull out a knife, or their friends or family are going to attack you. That's your unwholesome karma as a result of the unwise decisions. And in that airplane, I think those people are going to be pretty angry if you were dragging the suitcase through there. It's not you causing that anger nonetheless, but you can actually still cause harm, maybe to someone's physical body, their material possessions, or their reputation, and you'd like to eliminate that. Then you'd like to improve your livelihood. If you're having difficulties in your livelihood, where you really don't like the livelihood you're in and you're dragging yourself to work, you're going to need to look at that. Are you practicing any of those 5 livelihoods, like business and weapons, living beings, meat, substances that cause heedlessness, and poisons? And then you'd like to clean up the way that you're actually practicing your livelihood, that you're not scheming, having flattering, hinting, belittling, or pursuing gain with gain. There's deeper level of teachings on right livelihood. It's in volume 12, chapter 14. That's going to get you to the second fold of purification. And if you're in between jobs, or if you're in a job that you don't particularly care for, I suggest you look at volume 12, chapter 14 of our book series, because there you're going to see the first fold of purification for your livelihood. And then you're also going to see the second fold of purification too, which is going to help you get to a point where you can find your mango and sticky rice, right? Because that's what you would like to do, is thoroughly enjoy the work that you're doing each day. Okay, so I'm going to end here by thanking all of you guys for joining. Thank you for your interest to learn and understand the teachings of the Buddha. As you guys would like to learn more, there's lots of opportunities for you guys to be able to do that. Here this evening at 6:30, we have a meditation where I'm going to be meditating with students, guiding you in a session, and then just opening up to any and all questions that you have. This evening at 9 p.m., I teach this exact same class, because right now the people in Europe are sleeping, and I do it at 2 times during the day. So there's 2 time zones options for people, so that no matter what time zone you're in, you can actually learn a live class. And if you can't attend the live class, there's recordings on YouTube, on our podcast, and other places like this. You'll be able to watch the classes, because if you like to gradually learn these teachings, this is a perfect program for you. And what I suggest you do is that you get one of these books. You can download it from our website for free. You can take it and go print it. You can actually get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can order it on Amazon. And by slowly learning in this book and in this program, you'll be able to slowly gain the wisdom that you need to be able to clean up the mind and get to a point where your mind's experiencing the peace and the joy of the enlightened mental state. So whatever you do today, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Perhaps we'll see you in a future class. Be well and take care. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap.
Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.